Hey everyone, welcome to High Heels and Hay Bales, the podcast where polished meets practical, legal meets lifestyle, and debt meets dirt.
I'm Kristen, your resident farm lady, keeping it real about motherhood, homesteading, and the funny side of figuring out life.
And I'm Adrienne, aka the Ladylike Lawyer. I'm here to help you make sense of money, debt, and the legal stuff without boring you to tears.
So kick off your boots or heels and let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Well, a bougie lawyer and a hillbilly homesteader walk into a podcast, and here we are. Hello, Kristen. Welcome.
Hi, Adrienne.
I welcomed you like you're a guest, but you're my co-host, and
Right.
Here we are. We're still learning the ropes. We're still getting it right. I'm Adrienne. You're Kristen. I'm the bougie lawyer in this scenario, and you are my dear friend, the hillbilly homesteader. And you and I have come together to do a podcast talking about money, talking about what it's like from my perspective, from your perspective, the similarities, the differences. And today, episode 2, we are talking about the cost of raising children. Kristen, they told us kids would be expensive, but they never said how expensive they would be.
That is fact.
It's fair to say we've spent a lot of money on our kids over the years.
That is very fair.
You know, I'm going to take a moment really quickly here to address the elephant in the room, because this is a podcast about real life and money and all of those things. And Kristen, you have 2 beautiful children, 2 little girls. I want to hear more about them. I know our audience wants to hear about them. But before we get there, I just want everybody to know that my husband and I we were very blessed, and we had twins in 2001, a boy and a girl. And we have raised them, and we did all of the things. And my husband and I experienced a tremendous loss. Last summer, our 22-year-old daughter passed away unexpectedly. So I wanted to get that out there. I'm clearly on a grief journey still. It's still very fresh to me. But I'm also a mom. I'm a mom of 2 children. And so I went through all of this. I'm still dealing with, the expenses of children and our beautiful son who's making his way in the world. So I just wanted our audience to get a better understanding of who I am before we start moving into the content about family. And I just want to thank everybody for your grace and giving me space here to say that and welcome you into my life. And now, Kristen, first off, I would like the audience to hear about your family. So tell us about your children. How old are they? And then I'm going to start asking you some hard questions.
Oh, geez. Well, first, I love you. And you know I'm here for you always. And your grief journey is part of this, for sure. So never shy away from talking about it. My kids, I have a freshly 11-year-old and 3-year-old little girls. We had to do fertility treatments to have them. So right off the bat, that was expensive.
Before I was trying to figure out. We're getting into the cost of kids before we've even got them. I mean, that is really true. We do not even contemplate that. And as a bankruptcy lawyer, everybody knows I am. I have filed bankruptcy for people with IVF, expenses that they've racked up. Yep, absolutely. So I do understand. Wow, that's an interesting way to come into, a family is already behind the 8 ball a bit.
Oh yeah, we talk about debt, that was something. I mean, we were so hell-bent on having kids. We tried for 8 years. We'd started trying with a fertility doctor, and I got pregnant, and I was very happily pregnant, obviously. And then at almost 12 weeks, we lost our first baby. And
I did not know that, Kristen. I appreciate you telling us that. I think it's a very common experience for many women who are trying to conceive. So that's very brave of you to talk about. And I didn't know that. So I feel honored to know that about you now.
Well, it's a part of our journey and into parenthood and the finances too.
Right.
That pregnancy alone cost us $35,000. And I
Right.
didn't get a baby, obviously. I mean,
Right.
that was before and after. And then we did, I don't know how much artificial insemination, IUI treatment. I couldn't tell you how many we've done.
Right.
And it took like 6 months after we started trying again to have our first. And then we
Oh.
didn't try for 6 or 7 years. And then we tried for our little
Oh,
one.
we'll get to your save the marriage baby soon. We're gonna get there. But as we're progressing, here's what I want to know. Here's what we're moving towards today. We are moving towards what it's the expenses of raising children, and Kristen has already outlined that she came into the the child rearing process already in the hole. Like, how many of us think about what that is like? I mean, you've already got an expensive car payment without a car and nothing to drive. So, but here's what I want to start bringing us over to, really the realities of raising these children. So I want to know what the most ridiculous thing that you've ever spent money on for your children. What is
So,
the most ridiculous thing you've ever spent your money on for your kids?
aside from life, of course,
Yeah.
the I've been thinking about this
Okay.
for my oldest, because she was our only for 7 years. I didn't know if we were going to have any more children.
Right.
She got everything she wanted. I spoiled her and I regret it. But right after I found out, or no, right after I found out I was pregnant with the baby, Riley, our oldest, had been begging us for a corgi. And I was
A
like,
dog?
no, no,
You're
no,
talking
no,
about a
no.
dog, right?
Yeah, the
You're
dog.
talking about a dog. Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so
Okay.
I got pregnant with the baby, and then I found a corgi puppy. That was like $1,000. Or no,
Mm-hmm.
he was $1,200. And I paid for the dog, and then told my husband that I was going to get a dog for our oldest. I bought my dog, my 7-year-old, who couldn't be responsible for anything, a dog. Which that might be the dumbest thing I've ever done.
I mean, it's dumb because it was expensive. You had to pay $1,200 for that responsibility.
Right. And I also had I had a Saint Bernard that I paid $1,000 for, and my yellow lab. So like, I didn't need any more bougie dogs. Plus, I don't like little dogs.
So the most ridiculous thing you've ever spent money on for your kids is probably buying your daughter an expensive dog as you were bringing a baby home.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. That's fair. It's definitely not the wisest choice. I'm going to agree with you on that.
Well, I shouldn't say as I was bringing a baby home. I was freshly pregnant and bringing a puppy home that I had to potty train.
Gotcha.
While having, those early stages of pregnancy. Yeah. Anyway, that's the worst thing I could think of.
Potato. I mean, let's be honest. It's
correct.
You were pregnant or bringing that baby home is pretty much the same. What is the most ridiculous thing I've ever spent money on for my children? Honestly, it's a really, really difficult question to answer because I have pissed away so much money that it would be embarrassing for me to even think. One time, my son had a girlfriend. She'd been a long-term girlfriend, and our whole family was going on vacation. And we were bringing the girlfriend. And when my son's twin sister, Zoe was our daughter, when Zoe found out that her brother got to bring his girlfriend, she got very upset because she felt that he got everything in life and she got nothing. And so at the very last minute, I agreed to fly her friend out, and I had to pay full price for the ticket, and I had to pay for a place for them to stay. And I was just so overwhelmed and wanted a trip to go well with my family that I ended up spending like $4,000 extra to have another human with us who was adorable, and we loved him. I mean, he's a great kid. We loved him, but it was anxiety producing because that was expensive. But that's honestly only just the most recent thing I can think of, and that was just 2 years ago. And we happened to be sitting in the exact place where I had to pay for them to be too. So it's fresh on my mind. I think another really, really stupid thing that, I think another stupid thing that we spent a lot of money on was our children's college. Now, we saved for that. And I certainly believe that college can be valuable and very important. I don't think it's the end all be all, but we spent a lot of money on college out of pocket. We never borrowed anything.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and our daughter was not able to graduate, obviously, but she would have graduated with a humanities major from a very expensive college. I'm not sure she would have really ever gotten the money back from that. Our son went to a state school. He went to Ohio State, but after his sister passed, he couldn't go back for his last year. So he's still kind of out there, and we've got 3.5 years invested in him. And so we'll see what happens there. But I got to tell you, if somebody had asked me that 20 years ago, we were so intent on starting college funds for our kids, and we funded them well. We went without some fancy things during the process, but I would say that was probably a lot of people on the outside looking in would think that was a really waste of money. I'm beginning to think maybe it was.
Well, honestly, I went to college. I went to Bowling Green State University, and I had to take all the student loans out. There was no college fund for me. There was nobody paying for me. And taking all those student loans out was a waste because I didn't graduate. I was a vocal performance major. I was going for opera, and then I was going to change, and then I got really sick. And I ended up losing my voice for like 4 months. So as an opera major, the doctors thought I had the nodules like Julie Andrews has on her.
I would invite all of our listeners to head over to our website and tell us the most ridiculous thing you spent money on for your children, because we want to know all of the dumb things other people are doing out there. Don't worry, we're going to tell you about all the dumb things we've done and that we continue to do, so you do not feel like you are alone in this world. Well, let me ask you this, Kristen. Tell me, what are you proud about that you've budgeted in the child rearing phase? Like, what is it that you're proud of that you've been able to keep costs down that other people might be spending a lot of money on?
So when we had our oldest, we were single income, low income essentially, and I was raised was hand me down clothes, hand me down this. It didn't really matter. We never got brand new things. We never had name brand anything. So thank goodness for the internet, because I would buy a year's worth of clothes for my kids on Facebook Marketplace for $40.
Right, or eBay in the lots.
Mm-hmm. So I really, really pride myself on the fact that I never spent that much money on clothes for my kids, and they still had really great clothes because they were in great condition. I would go to the rich neighborhoods.
Yeah, for sure.
And no, I still bought my kids brand new stuff, but it was Walmart stuff because I'm not going to Kohl's. I'm poor. I don't care.
Kohl's is expensive. I agree.
It is.
I get it. I see that Kohl's is a totally different category.
Yeah. I feel weird saying that too. But
I can acknowledge it, and I can also acknowledge that there are. Then you're going to go to your Nordstrom racks, and then you're going to go to your Nordstroms. I mean, there's a hierarchy there for sure.
For sure. We also did. For our baby showers, I was gifted a ton of diapers. So for our oldest, I almost got, I think it was like 8 months of diapers that I didn't have to purchase. Okay. So when we got, my family left me. So when we got to that point where I had to start buying diapers, I just bought the cheap stuff because I didn't care. And then I found out that there were coupons for formula, and I was couponing formula. And then I found out with my youngest that there was off-brand formula that's the exact same stuff, and I was saving 70% on formula. Now you can't do that because, but It really, there are ways to save money and then just blow it on other stuff.
Well, I think that's really the issue. Well, as the mother of twins, I can tell you that I had to learn how to be very budget conscious in those early days. I mean, as bougie as I am, it is, I have to live within a budget as well. My budget is just different. But I will say that the poorest time of my life, outside of when I was a child, my poorest time as an adult was when my husband and I were pregnant, and that first 2 years that they were born, because I had twins and I was on bed rest. I was put on bed rest at 26 weeks, and I had been working. I was a full-time lawyer, and my husband worked for the state. He was a lawyer. He was a workers' comp judge, but he worked for the state of Ohio. So, he was, we had great benefits, but it wasn't the most amount of money. I could make a lot more money in private practice. But I had to step away from work because I only had 6 weeks maternity leave. I was the first lawyer in my law firm ever. I was the first lawyer, female lawyer ever. I was certainly the first one to get pregnant. And there really wasn't a lot of accommodations for me. And I had to kind of fight, even though my dad was a partner there. But I got 6 weeks. And then, being the lawyer, Kristen, I was in a car accident. Somebody ran a red light and hit me while I was pregnant. And I was savvy enough to turn that into a settlement that basically funded the next 6 months for us, because I didn't work for 6 months. And then we found out that our children had, because they were born early, they were premature by 6 weeks, they had to have this special formula called Nutramigen, and this Nutramigen special stuff. It was $70 a can. Kristen, this was 23 years ago. $70 a can. And my pediatrician would just try to get as many extras because they had to be on this special formula. So I remember those days, and that kind of brings us into, breaking down the real costs of children, right? These are, the IVF, the special formula, these things nobody ever takes into consideration. Nobody ever has any thought that that's going to be a problem. You have kids, and then you've got huge expenses. Like, you've got childcare and preschool, you've got healthcare and medical costs. You've got education and college savings, if that's in your wheelhouse. You've got grocery bills. I mean, how much do these kids eat, right? And like, for me, I went back to work part-time after 6 months, and then full-time after 2 years. And then the daycare costs were the killer for us. Did you ever need daycare? Did you ever have to have daycare?
So part of my goal in life was never to have my kids in daycare because I don't trust people.
Yeah.
And we also knew that the cost was outlandish. I mean, if I were to go to work at any point in my children's lives so far, if I were to go back to work, I would have to make what Jeremy makes, what my husband makes.
Yeah.
And with my skill set and what I would be able to do, it's unattainable. I would be working to have somebody else watch my kids.
Right.
So I've been able to stay home, and it's made it harder, but I've also found ways to make money. So I've offset that. But even now, I've considered putting my youngest in daycare, and I've priced it out, and I was like, nope, we're just going to have to deal without. And I priced out preschool through our school district, and it was so astronomically expensive. I was like, this is public education. I shouldn't be paying this much money for preschool. So my 3.5-year-old, she's just going to be home with me until I decide to put her in school.
Listen, I think we are all capable of homeschooling preschoolers, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's perfectly within our wheelhouse. I admire homeschoolers. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I admire them, and I'm fascinated with that process. I don't know how we teach algebra if we don't know it, but I'm super open to all of that stuff. But I do think that it's not very hard for us. I think we've gotten into a culture where we think that preschool is, the end all be all. And it's not. My kids went to a preschool in the back of a church, and it was mostly daycare for us. It was a daycare for us. And they were picking up some things along the way. And, as a family that are, come from college educated parents, my husband and I are college educated. All of our siblings are college educated. College was the end all be all for us. And now that I look back, I recognize that a lot of the things that we thought mattered really doesn't matter once we're in this phase. But, you got to go through the process to find out. It is really expensive, daycare. And you are right. I mean, think about it. If daycare is going to cost you $500 a week for 2 kids, you have to make at least $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month to pay the taxes and then turn around and pay the daycare. That's it. That's it. So the first $3,000 is just going to there. So it has to be worth it. You have to be making enough to make it worth it.
Yep. And there's
a real gap between there. And I say this because my paralegal, you guys will hear me mention her name a lot, Taylor. She's my queen. She's my Everett. She's the wind beneath my wings for my bankruptcy practice. But it's really difficult to watch her try to exist because she has 4 beautiful children, and she's got a significant other, and and they're trying to make their way in the world. But there comes a point in time where if I pay her anything more, she will lose her daycare. And I can't increase her pay enough to make it worthwhile, right? And so there's this huge gap in between. And I really wish that there were more people paying attention to that and making it more available for us so that women have more ability to get out of the house and do the things that are fulfilling and to contribute to the household, And a lot of people find themselves in your situation. Well, what about healthcare and like medical costs? Because
we are very, very lucky.
That's a huge expense for my husband and I.
Well, we are very lucky that my husband has he works in a union shop, and they have union benefits. They have healthcare, and he worked in a place that wasn't union, and our healthcare was our deductibles were sky high, so we were very, very cautious in what we did. This job he's been at for a few years, it's kind of his end game because he'll have a pension and things that we didn't ever expect him to have.
Nice.
And the insurance is still not amazing. However, our deductible is like $1,000 or something, or maybe I don't even know. It's really, really cheap. We pay a little bit more for it, but there's all these things. So we have that benefit, even though it's still expensive and it really doesn't cover much. And sometimes you can go without insurance and get a better deal. And we'll talk about that. We probably shouldn't get into that yet. But I'm not necessarily afraid.
We'll do a whole episode on medical. But
that's a great idea.
It's worth it.
Yeah. But, if my kid falls down and breaks her leg, I'm not worried that I'm going to have a $55,000 doctor bill. I have that little bubble that I'll have a smaller copay. Thank goodness.
Right.
Because when I was a kid, we didn't always have that. So I broke a hand. I had to go to the hospital. My parents were like, great. Okay. Another bill. My dad was in and out of the hospital. Great. All of these medical bills, and they never got ahead. So we are very lucky that we have that. Even though it takes a chunk out of my husband's paycheck, we kind of don't notice it.
Yeah. I can tell you, my husband worked for the state of Ohio until 2019, and he retired because he's older than me. He retired, and in the last couple of years before his retirement, benefits were starting to be taken away. So he had committed an entire life to working his entire adult career as a lawyer, as a judge, was, in service to the state of Ohio. And then right as he was beginning to, exit the stage, It just so happened that they started to completely take away benefits. So they changed the rules, and once you retired, your spouse doesn't get your health insurance benefits, nor your children. When my husband retired, we had to go out and buy insurance, my kids and I, on the marketplace, right? Because I'm self-employed. My law firm is self-employed. I got to pay it. It's me anyway. And I got to tell you, for the last 5 years, 4.5 years, my family has been paying $2,012 per month for health insurance for my daughter, my son, and I. And they were in college, right? Daughter, son, and I. That's $2,010 a month. And that's after taxes. And our copay was an $8,000 family max. $6,000 individual, $8,000 family max. So if you think about it, the fee, my premiums were $24,000 a year after taxes. And I had an $8,000 deductible. So that takes us up to about 32 grand. I had to earn almost the first $50,000 I earned up until my daughter passed away. Our numbers went down. But I still have to pay $1,300 a month after taxes. And we still have an $8,000 copay between my son and I. And that's a lot of money. It's less money than I had to pay before, but it's a lot of money. And when you figure that it's after tax and start to calculate all those things, you understand how people start to get buried in this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
What about extracurricular stuff in sports? You got one. Riley is she interested in any of that stuff? Are you blessedly lucky that she is unaware and uninterested in traveling soccer teams and whatnot?
So it's kind of twofold. When she was first in, getting into school age, I was schooling her. I homeschooled her until second grade. So I put her in public school in third, I believe it was. So while she was homeschooled, I was like dance lessons, karate lessons, this lesson, that lesson. And we did it through like our local school or our local rec center or whatever. So it was inexpensive. Now that she's in public school, she tried basketball and realized she had to run. So she was like, nope, don't want to do that. She's her mother's child. And she has considered a few things and decided she was just going to do band. Now she's in band and she hates carrying her trombone. So I don't know exactly what this child is doing. She really loves video games and digital art and whatever. So, I'll pay for art supplies. Yeah, that's cool for me. My little one, she terrifies me. She thinks she's going to do everything. She says she's the queen of everything.
You still have a lot of this coming at you. You're not
Yes.
quite in the place where I think a lot of parents with middle schoolers and high schoolers are. And I can tell you that I know that I kind of fell into that trap too. We are so excited and so proud of our children, and we go to all the things because our parents didn't go to the stuff for us, right? And so we're super involved and we're super into it. And it is very easy as a parent to see your child fly over the hurdles like a gazelle, and to imagine them in the Olympics, and imagine them running for a college team, and imagine them on podiums with stuff, and you want them to be amazing. And if you can't tell, my son was an amazing hurdler, but I had people around me, right? Like some of my law partners had kids, and like they went really deep down the sports stuff, and it was expensive, Kristen. Like they're flying to Orlando for a game, and they're doing this, and they're traveling, and it was always, well, she might get a scholarship. And let me tell you something. One of his daughters did get a scholarship, and after the first year, she spit the scholarship, spit the school, and went to a party school and said, I am done. I never liked this anyway. And so I think I hope somebody out there hears this, because the reality is that traveling teams are nice and they're fun. They are social. They are a social club for the parents, to be honest. And if you think that it's anything other than that, First off, I watched. We also had a foster child. I'm sorry, I probably didn't. I should have mentioned him, Russell. I will say that Russell is an amazing young man and is in our life. But Russell came to us when he was in high school, and both of his parents were incarcerated at the time, and he was an amazing football player. And nobody was helping him. He just thought that he would just get a scholarship because his parents were in jail, right? He was an amazing football player. But as I came into his life, I began to realize I was terrified for any human who had to go to a college and rely on their physicality and risk their own health in order to get an education. And it just breaks my heart to think about that, to be honest. And so we put him in a D3 school, even though he could have gone to a D1, because we wanted him to have a full scholarship the entire time. That's all you can do in a D3. So, I mean, my experience is that the more you want them to be great, the more disappointed you will be, and the more money you're going to waste.
Absolutely.
That's my take on it. Yeah.
I have a friend who's got she's got twins and an older son. Her older son is an amazing baseball player, and he was on travel teams, did all of that. Mm-hmm. And something happened socially with the travel team, and he quit after they dumped tons of money into this. And now he's an amazing rugby player. And her daughter, one of the twins, took an incredible liking to horses. And her, my friend is big into horses, to the point where they do travel horse shows. She's been in like the big national races, and she does barrel racing. They built her a barn. She's got like 4 or 5 horses just of her own now. That is the most expensive thing I could ever think of. And my oldest was like, Mom, I want a horse. And I was like, no, we're too poor for that.
My mother was raised on a farm, and so she was raised around horses. She was very, very poor. She groomed horses in order to make enough money to go to the dentist, which is why college was so important to my mother. But I have, my mom taught me to ride when I was young. It wasn't easy because it's extremely expensive. We never owned a horse or anything, but she would take me to horse riding lessons and things like that. And after my daughter passed away, I got back into, like, I pay for lessons, and my mom actually owns a horse now. It's somebody gave it to her because it's old. And I started riding the horse again. And the one thing I can tell you is that even now for me, it is an expensive hobby.
How did I not know this?
You don't know that well, because I haven't been on Charlie since it got really, really, really cold, because apparently he sweats and then he gets too cold in his stall. Apparently I'm learning a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, I was riding Charlie when the weather is nice, probably usually once a week. Yeah. When I'm home. But it is a very expensive hobby. And at the end of the day, you are making these choices for yourself because there are children that go to Dartmouth and Harvard and live amazing lives who never go to Orlando on the traveling team, right? So we have to be realistic about all of this stuff. If you're spending the money, you're spending it for yourself. Don't tease yourself. Don't tell yourself that you're doing this for your children. You're doing it for an experience for your family. But let's talk about, I will say that the differences, the solid differences I would assume that you and I would have as parents raising children is that I probably will move towards convenience. I'll pay for convenience. I would say that the primary differences between you and I as parents, this is my guess. Tell me if I'm right. That I am very quick to pay for convenience. I will pay for convenience. And let me give you an example of how I would pay for convenience. As a working mom, right? My kid needed a ride home after school, after practice, after tennis, after band, after track, after you name it, right? I had systems set up in place where I had an entire network of moms and or 16-year-old drivers, in our community. And if they would go get my kid and bring her home, I would pay them. Or if there was if there was a carpool or something, it was my responsibility to buy snacks for everybody. I would buy snacks. Buying snacks and gas was always my thing. Please take my kid here. Please take my kid there. Convenience. I will spend way too much money on food if it is available and right there if I am hungry. I will pay for convenience very, very fast. And that's honestly where I piss most of my money away, is convenience stuff. I didn't pay for
I don't know.
schools. I didn't put my kids in private schools. I think a lot of people in my income category do. We didn't put our kids in private schools because we had twins, and our community only had one private school that only had one kindergarten teacher, and so they wouldn't be separated. And honestly, we probably would have put them in the private school if we didn't have that dilemma. So I'm glad we didn't. I'm a big public school fan, but I might have been talked into it back then. I might have been convinced that it was the right thing to do. I don't think that now.
Yeah, so I have twin nieces, and I don't know that they've ever actually, outside of preschool, I don't know that they've ever been in the same class. And I think it's a big benefit. I have twin cousins, same thing. I mean, every once in a while they'd be in the same class or whatever. But it was always a benefit to keep them separated. So they had their own personalities and identities.
Well, my kids were in preschool together, as I told you, in the back of Firelands Presbyterian Church. And the preschool teachers / daycare providers told us, as we were getting ready to enroll them in kindergarten, they just kind of said to us, listen, you're going to need to separate these two. Because my daughter was a lot like me, very, very chatty. My daughter was doing all the talking, and her twin brother was doing all the working. They're like, we need to hear from him, and she needs to start working. So that's why we had to separate them. I will definitely pay for convenience. I'm not a big private school person. I liked all the convenience things that I could get when the baby gear and, as the kids were getting older. But I also realized that a lot of that stuff is so wasteful.
I don't know that that's so much of a difference in as far as paying for convenience, because there are times, if my oldest needs to get somewhere or get home or whatever, I'm lucky enough I have a few relatives I can call and be like, hey, go get her. Or there's an emergency, can you help me out here or whatever. But if I'm busy and I don't want to deal with anything, or we're out and about and I don't feel like coming home and making dinner, I'm going to stop and I'm going to get fast food. I don't care.
Yeah, the difference between you and I is you might stop and get fast food, but I might call to one of my favorite restaurants and place an order and go, I want, like maybe I don't just want a hamburger from McDonald's. Maybe I want one of those big juicy burgers with the homemade fries from the place,
I am pretty prone to ordering steak from my favorite steakhouse and going to pick
you
up.
And I both love food. I mean, let's let the listeners know that you and I would both spend way too much money on food because we both love it a lot.
We do.
We send a lot of messages back and forth about food throughout the day.
We do. And we have a lot of restaurants to try when you get home.
We do have a lot of restaurants to try. Moving out of that, I would say, especially in today's day and age. Now, my kids, they were born in 2001, so they were being raised during the social media era. But at the same time, I still don't think it was quite as high pressure as it is for you. So do you feel like social media pressures you or influences you in terms of how much you need to spend or what you need to be doing with your kids? Does it encourage you to spend more? I think that's what a lot of people would think.
So it's kind of twofold. Since I do affiliate things for TikTok and whatnot, my job is to sell people stuff. And I get a lot of stuff for free. So my kids already have it. For a long time when my oldest was little, one of the big things at the holidays especially, people would post their Christmas trees and all the presents around their Christmas trees. And when I was a kid, growing up poor, you have this big ideology that that's an amazing Christmas, these massive mountains of presents. Yeah. And you get like 5 and you're like, oh, okay. And all your friends are telling you about everything that's so huge and massive. And because of the way I am, my brain was like, okay, my kids need everything. So my oldest's first Christmas, it was stupid. She couldn't even open presents. She was 10 months old.
Right.
And I still managed to make this giant, massive mountain of Christmas presents, albeit they were thrifted.
Sure.
But like, I shouldn't have done it. And then every
You
birthday was the same.
you wrapped every single one, and it was under, and they were piled up, so it looked like a mountain, and it had all the bows and all the stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And then
Yeah,
I
and you
had to unwrap it.
probably then you had to throw all that junk away, and
Uh-huh.
your child didn't even appreciate it, and you learned a very important lesson that I think a lot of moms learn early on, and that is you set the tone in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to lower the expectations. If you do an amazing first birthday, they all have to be amazing. Girl, start at the bottom and gently inch your way up as they get a little bit older, so they think that they're getting this stuff. I'm telling you, that is a mistake that a lot of people make. We all do it. You know, we go crazy when the kids first are born. We go crazy in their first birthdays. And then when they're 4, 5, 6, their expectations are very high. And
Right.
it's hard to keep up with that. And we need to be better about seeing what's coming down the road and remembering that things are not love, right? Like, we're working on that, right?
And on top of that, the whole, like you said before, where we're doing it for ourselves. Realistically, that big first birthday, it's a celebration of the little one, but we kept a baby alive for a year. We're going to have this massive party.
Yeah, a baby
then,
that it took you $35,000 and years and years and years to come by, and you had all of the beautiful images in your brain from Pinterest and Instagram of what this was supposed to look like. And you know what? It doesn't really look like those pictures.
No.
I mean, real life doesn't look like those pictures.
No.
It is a lot of anxiety to get those presents under the tree. And when you step back and realize how little they are probably appreciated in the whole scheme of things, it does feel a bit wasteful, doesn't it?
It does. And, you know, when obviously it's massively different from my oldest to my youngest. My oldest, we were like, everybody is invited, all the family, all of this, all of that. Big, huge parties for every year. Everything was a theme and everything. My littlest was born, and her first birthday, I was like, family only. I don't care. I don't want to do it. It's sunflowers. I love sunflowers right now, so she's my little sunflower. And then I just decorated with flowers out of my garden. I was like, that's it. There you go. And it was great. Like, it was wonderful. So for my littlest, we just only have the family over. Because I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. And that's okay. And everybody needs to hear that that's okay, because social media is playing a pretty large role in making us feel like we have to spend more on our children. There's a tremendous amount of pressure to provide the very best for our kids, even when it's financially unrealistic. And I see this a lot in my bankruptcy practice. And one of the areas I really see it is with cars. People are like, I have a child, and therefore I need the newest, most reliable, most everything car. As if a car made 5 years ago wasn't pretty damn safe, right? Mm-hmm. And so I see people who feel like who think in their brain that they must be in a Honda Odyssey, you know, a 2023 or newer Honda Odyssey van in order to keep their family safe, when in fact they cannot afford that. Right. And we've been led to believe that only a good van is quality enough for our children. And the reality, I was not riding around in a Honda Odyssey van, and neither were you. And so we need to remember that children were raised happily and safely without a lot of these accoutrements that we now think are absolutely necessary. And if we're trying to maintain a budget, or trying to change, be thoughtful about our spending moving forward, which I think is something that you and I are trying to do. It's worth being intellectually honest about where we're going with that, right?
Absolutely. And social media adds to that consumerism, that capitalistic thought process everyone has.
Sure.
I mean, my kids are so easily influenced. If my kid is watching TV and she sees a commercial, I want that. 99% of the time, 5 minutes later, she forgets what it is.
Of course.
So I try and steer my kids away from all of that. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in an office surrounded by crap that I got off of TikTok that I'm supposed to sell people. But, I am trying to change the way my kids see things from social media. I try and keep them off of social media. But, my 11-year-old will say, Mom, look how cool this is. And we have sit down conversations like, do you understand that that's only going to give you 5 minutes of excitement? I just had a flashback to a conversation my mother had to me when I was like 15. So we'll go away from that.
Amazing how that happens, isn't it?
Right? But anyway, we're more trying to live a more sustainable lifestyle and do things like that. So even though my oldest has, gaming consoles and things like that, I've been putting my foot down and saying, hey, we're going out as a family and we're working the farm. This isn't just me anymore. This is all of us. You're old enough to understand it. And that is how I'm trying to give them a better balance, but also get them away from wanting to buy everything every 5 minutes, because that is so expensive. We go to the store. I want this. I want that. I want this. And sometimes I can do it. Sometimes I can't.
Well, and I think it's all about teaching our kids the value of money. And it's interesting because you are the way you make money right now is as an affiliate through the TikTok shop. I mean, that's
Right.
pretty much how you make money right now. So we're all,
Yep.
crossing our fingers and making sure that this continues for you. But that's what you do. And in order to do that, they send you the product, you do a video or 2 or 3 depending on what the requirement is, and then you get to keep a portion of the proceeds of what you sell. You get a commission off of it.
Right.
And so you are unique because if you have everything, you have literally everything in your tiny little house. You have literally everything, and your children are just physically in the midst of consumerism. And
Yeah.
I think your kids are just just like a metaphor for really the kids growing up in America today watching this consumerism. And I think what you're doing is really important. I think what you're doing is something that every parent should be doing. They should be sitting their kids down and they should be going over the value of things, the price of things. And they should be like tying that to work. We have to go take care of the pigs. We have to do it for 1 hour. If we take care of the pigs for 1 hour, you will get $10. And then, and they have to associate that with work, because it's not just lip service. We need to understand the value of money. And even I don't. We piss it away because we're not appreciating its value.
Right.
And we're making stupid choices.
And there's always more. It always comes there. You can always make more.
Some really good ways. I was in moms of twins clubs when I was, parenting. I had a lot of people in my orbit who were also crying every day of exhaustion. But some things that I learned from them, even as, and those first 2 years was really difficult. We were very poor. I was shopping at used children's stores.
Those are the best, though.
Once upon a child, it was always a great place to get the newborn stuff because nobody's baby's ever in it for very long. We had to zip over there and buy a bunch of preemie stuff. But buying secondhand stuff, swapping with other moms, that type of stuff. Even as my kids got older, in the groups that we were in, like the football mom group or the tennis group or, the boosters for the track team, we would trade stuff. Oh, do you have, ski club? Does anybody have skis for this, or boots, and we can trade them? We can do that. So that is an important thing. I think a lot of people understand how valuable that is. But as somebody who's not really good at the meal planning and cutting grocery costs, I follow a great lady on TikTok, Gina, who is really teaching people how to cut their grocery bill and, do all that stuff. There's just things that can be done that I wish that I had been doing a bit more of throughout the years, because I think it would have given me more discipline.
Maybe. Because, I grow the majority of our food from our garden. Well, I shouldn't say the majority. That's a lie. I grow a lot of our food. I raise our animals to feed us. And I still will gladly spend $250 at Costco every couple weeks for the convenience of meals that are done, so I just throw them in the oven. Or hey, they have rotisserie chickens, and I can buy 4 of those and make 3 meals out of. Well, okay, 4 meals out of whatever.
Well, I do want to say in that defense, I mean, we do love Costco, and Costco's rotisserie chickens are amazing. Like
Okay,
my
I'm
husband goes
gonna.
to Costco once a week, and it's an hour away. He goes to Costco once a week to go get us some of those roasted chickens and a couple of
I'm
other.
gonna be 100% honest here. Sam's Club's chickens are the better of the two.
Well, that might be true, but I'm Costco.
But I'm not spending money at Sam's Club right now. So, yeah, Costco, their rotisserie chickens are amazing. Their chicken pot pie, oh, chef's kiss.
They
Delicious.
just got a lot of good stuff there. But
They
you
sure
can
do.
all. But here's what I do. I meander around Costco, or I'll meander around Whole Foods, the fancy one. I don't shop a lot at Whole Foods because it's so damn expensive. Even I recognize that. But I like to walk around and get a lot of ideas, right? Like
Mhm.
I pick up ideas. I'm like, oh, look at those street tacos. They're doing the whole little thing. I could get some cabbage. I could get some chicken. I could do this. So I get some ideas that way. But
That's
I
a great
think
idea.
I think it's important to be in groups with other moms that have children your similar ages, because I think that's where you pick up a lot of the nuanced information about how to where the sales are, what's going on, or how they're saving money, or how they're spending money ridiculously, and then you can do some comparison. I know you don't have a college savings account yet for your children. I do want to say that it's important to set realistic goals about college. If you're just starting out, it's and your kids are 12, 13, 14, it's not reasonable to think that you're going to have $100,000 in there for them to go to college. But a little bit, if that matters to you, if that's important to you and your family, starting a small fund and putting tiny bits in it not only helps you to start preparing, but it can help your children see the sacrifices that are being made for something important in their future. And so we did talk to our kids a lot about saving for college. And as much as I joke about how expensive college was, my children appreciated what we did for them. We taught them the value of money, and they genuinely appreciate it. I don't have any concerns about that. So I say that whatever you do, teaching your children about money is one way to avoid them ever having to come to me in my professional capacity. So I just want to remind everybody that talking to them. My husband didn't want to talk to our kids about money.
Yeah, you said that before to me.
Yeah.
We to go back on what you said about having people hoping they don't ever have to come to you in a professional capacity. Even if they do, as a person that just did this, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It means
For
that they've
sure.
lived, something's happened, and they need a fresh start, and it's okay.
I absolutely agree. And that is my position, and I am extremely defensive, and my whole purpose in life is outside of learning how to be a better friend and a better person in the world. My purpose in life is to help people understand that bankruptcy law is just a tool in the toolbox. But I do believe that a lot of people come to the table lacking a fundamental understanding of money, and it starts in the home. It
Agreed.
really does. And as my husband is a boomer, he's older than me, said he's retired, and so he came to our marriage much more I'm not letting no way, I don't want our children to know how much we make. And I immediately saw that as a huge problem for us. Well, Kristen, this has been a podcast. We've gone deep down the silly things that you and I do to be parents here, and the silly ways that we spend our money, and the different ways that we spend our money. I'm going to give our listeners a challenge today. I want you to look at one area where you're overspending on your kids and see if you can cut back this week, and then tell us about it. Kristen, where are you going to try to cut back this week?
DoorDash.
Spending on your kids.
DoorDash. No, actually, this is a really bad week to ask me that question. My 11-year-old just turned 11, and her birthday party is this upcoming weekend. and I have to buy all the things for that. And we have family coming in from out of state, and I'm an absolute wreck because I know this is going to be a very expensive week. Next week, I'll discuss that.
That's fair. Okay, but you know it's going to be an expensive week, so maybe sitting down and maybe writing out all of the major expenses you're going to have. And, you know, these are things I hate doing, by the way. I'm just telling you to do it because I know it should be done, but I'm not sure I would do it myself.
You know, this is how far I'm going. We're having gravel poured down the side of our driveway so we have more parking for a birthday party.
Well, you need that gravel anyway. You need a bigger driveway.
I do.
Well,
anyway, yeah.
My son is 23 years old and he is at home taking care of the dog while my husband and I are gallivanting around the world. But he is still an expensive young man, and I think that moving forward, I've got to go get some groceries on a click list for him. Maybe, you see, I don't even pay for click list. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll make him go to the grocery store on his own. I definitely am going to. We are looking at the cost of food, and we're trying to be much more budget conscious with our food. And I will say, I'm going to commit to this next week to trying to spend less money on food, even while I'm on vacation, and spending less money at home for our son. That's going to be my commitment. Is I'm going to try and reduce my food costs over the next 7 days until we talk again.
Okay, I will reduce my DoorDash, Instacart, Uber Eats all week because I'm really bad about it.
Just look and see how much you spent or how many times you've done it in the last 2 weeks, and then just be like, I will do half. I will only do half the average or something. That's too much.
Your head would explode.
No, I doubt it. I doubt it. This has been the High Heels and Hay Bales podcast. I am Adrienne Hines. This is Kristen Paris. Well, this has been the High Heels and Hay Bales podcast, episode 2. We've been talking about raising children, the costs. Our next episode, Kristen, we are going to be talking about the shame around debt, why we all need to stop pretending we've got it all together. This is my jam. This is my lane. This is where I like that to be.
This is going to be an Adrienne heavy podcast episode next time.
I think so. I'll probably have a lot to say. We'll have to find ways to shut me up. I feel like I'm pretty excited, and I can't wait to see our audience next week. I'm really excited that we're doing this, Kristen. We've been talking about this for a while, and we're gonna get this together, and we're gonna keep it going because I think we got a lot to share with our listeners.
I think so too. I'm enjoying it.
Me too. All right, Kristen. We'll see you next week, girl.
All right. See you next week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on High Heels and Hay Bales. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, make sure to follow wherever you listen.
And don't forget, we've got even more for you. Head over to highheelsandhaybales.com and subscribe to our newsletter and Substack for exclusive behind-the-scenes content, bloopers, and tips you didn't even know you needed.
You can also connect with us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Send us your questions, funny stories, or topic ideas, and we'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay grounded, stay laughing, and stay out of trouble. Well, mostly.
See you next week.